6 million years ago, the jungle breathed in a fragile, perfect balance.
Rivers moved like lazy serpents through the heart of the jungle. But beneath the calm surface, deeper.
On the golden plains, the lions ruled the sunlit grass in quiet confidence. But Raka watched them. Lions hunted, raptors stalked. But they took only what the day allowed.
High above it all, Kong sat on a throne carved from the mountain's own bones. For a long time, the jungle was calm, and the giant stayed gentle.
Beneath the lake, something ancient stirred in the dark. Even half asleep, its movement shook the water like a silent warning. Herds moved like slow rivers across the open valleys, unafraid. For a little while, the jungle gave.
Even at night, the jungle did not scream. It breathed and slept.
From cliff to plains to the deep black lake, the jungle still held its.
While the cubs played in the dust, the sky drew.
A single pass of fire sent the herds crashing toward the lion side of the world. When the dragons burned the forest edge, they didn't just kill, they evicted.
They didn't start by challenging the lions on the rock. They started by taking their children in the dark.
When Raka reached the pool, there was only torn mud and aching water. They wrapped the pride in fire before they ever struck the stone. The last shield around the lions wasn't stone or claws. It pinned by fire above, the pride never saw the real attack coming. The pride rock was never meant to take fire from the sky and fangs from the deep at the same time. The pride had drawn blood, but the answer was ash. While dragons turned the dead into a smoke. When the boar started eating his family, Raka chose the sky instead, dragging the pride up onto open stone. The siege had squeezed them down to a strip of rock no wider than their own spines. On that knife edge, trapped on a strip of dying stone, Raka reached past the fire and Zemfang mountain.
Raka's roar was different. It carried fire and drowning stone, and it was the first sound in years that made King Kong stand up.
Every step Kong tucked down the mount, pinned between sky and stone, Raka started listening hard enough to hear the difference between a step from the mountain and a punch from the tunnel.
When the pride refused to break on the rock, the siege spread and the enemy started burning the places where tomorrow's hunters would have been born.
The jungle tried to hide its young in height, carving houses into trunks and branches. The dragon...
razed houses and boiled the river, rose up as a wall in front of the Mountain King. From the ridge, the war stopped being smoke and sound and turned into a clear bowl of death. Serpent on
Once he understood where the bowl would bite, Kong stepped off the rim and dropped straight through his own gaps. Dragons died on the way down.
Kong's first move near the Pride wasn't a swing. It wasn't a swing. That almost snapped the spine gave Kong what he'd never had before in this war. Choking on its own failed bite, the serpent tried to spin the lake, the ring, and the sky into one kill. Killing the serpent didn't end the fight. It just knocked the brain out of the siege. With no ring.
When the Gap started tearing their wings, the Skyburners stopped trying to rule the lake and went hunting for houses instead.
The dragons thought burning the dens would end the jungle. Once a dragon's wings were torn, the corridor over the gap stopped being a route and became a chute. After the first wreck,
When one of the last strong Skyburners climbed straight up and came down like a spear, it wasn't aiming at coils, it was aiming at the spine.
in the end, the corridor didn't scare the dragons away. It ground the last of them into stone, scale, and water. Once the sky stopped hunting, the jungle started counting, and hunting anything left that had fed on it. Keeping the lions alive on the spine wasn't enough. They had to see what the deep had done to their own.
Leaving the hollow, the lions didn't walk alone. The jungle wrapped itself around them and turned the burned path. At the edge of the Golden Plains, the ash finally broke into grass, and the escort line opened.
On that first rise past the ash, the Pride didn't bury what they carried.
Surviving the night didn't prove the threat was gone. It just proved it hadn't tried in the dark. Killing the monsters was only half the job. The rest was teaching the cubs exactly how those shapes moved.
The serpent and the dragons had slipped in through the gaps.
It wasn't enough to survive the monsters. They had to prove they could hunt without waking those old patterns back up.
If planes were going to stay safe, the biggest eyes needed a place built for them, not borrowed from old...
For the first time, the Serpent's Lake, the Dragon's Ridge, Bone Hill, and the night the hollow surface shivered, every scar remembered the serpent, but the pattern in the water said otherwise.